Hi, everybody. My name is Evan Radisik. I'm the Managing Director of the Cloud Software Association. Today with us, we have Dina Moskowitz and Clinton Gatewood from SaaSMAX. They're going to be talking about how to build an ideal partner profile. I think there's a lot there. It's probably one of the more fundamental aspects of launching a partner program is knowing who to launch it for and who the ideal partner for you is. So without further ado, I won't get into it. I will let Dina take it away from here, do a little intro, and please ask questions, get in there. It can be a little bit awkward with Zoom, but we'll try to answer as many questions and make it as interactive as possible throughout this whole session. So don't be shy, get in there. All right, thanks a lot. Dina, take it away.
And so this is what we're going to accomplish today. Okay, first we'll give you a little background on who we are and why why what we're sharing with you will be impactful to you and how we've been there ourselves and are there ourselves. And then talk a little bit about the problem and the pain that this workshop's intended to solve, but bring it really home there and learn about your pain specifically. Talk about the solution and the approach that we start with a workshop with you, and then we're going to lead you through this worksheet. So I want to make sure that you guys saw in the Slack channel that we gave you a link to request the PDF download. It's a fillable PDF, and it's yours. It's not, it stays on your side on your machine, so it's not you're not feeding it to us unless you choose to later on, in which case we'd be happy to look at it with you. And then from there, we'll just talk about how you leverage the ideal partner profile in your journey of growing your channel. So in the meantime, let's first go ahead.
I'm sorry, could you share that link in the chat?
Yes.
For the PDF? Thank you very much.
I think I can do that. I think I have it right here. Yep, there you go. So it's in the chat area. Perfect.
Great.
Awesome. All right, great. So so I'm Dina Moskowitz. I'm founder and CEO of SaaSMAX. And in the technology B2B IT channel is where I live. Most of my career has been there. I started a backup disaster recovery SaaS company before SaaSMAX, which when I exited, it became my mission after that was to say, there's so many emerging SaaS companies coming to market, and the channel is this huge go-to-market strategy that exists for all the major technology companies out there, but yet the emerging SaaS world didn't know about the channel or didn't think about it, right? They just thought, we go to market, we're online, here we go, so let's just take it out there. And the channel is a whole organized and sometimes disorganized sector or ecosystem that comprises 62% of all B2B tech sales go through channel partners. And you guys probably know that. We're preaching to the choir. But the challenge is that finding the right channel partners is not as easy as we want it to be or as we think. And we don't realize it until we really start to dig in. And so I'll introduce Clint Gatewood here, and he'll, because he really is the channel chief that's done it all. He's built a channel of over 12,000 partners at Zenith Infotech. But Clint, I'll let you introduce yourself. He really has been through every possible iteration of partner recruitment and discovery and activation and engagement, etc. I'm just the founder. I build the software and respond to the challenges that our customers face, right? But Clint really is the feet on the street who's had that experience directly building partner programs.
Yeah, so Dina plays herself a little bit. She's knows a lot about channels as well, and doing a lot of work with. I'm Clint Gatewood, VP of Client Services here at SaaSMAX. As Dina said, I've grown channels up to 12,000 members, and had another backup disaster recovery company like she did, which we sold, and I came here. So, and I came here because I just, I did it the old-fashioned way. You get 20,000 contacts, 50,000 contacts at a particular at these different reseller companies that you think might be out there, might want to do business with you, and you just start pounding with emails, and you got a call center, and we owned all that ourselves, and we called them and just started recruiting channel, and it just really come down to where it become untenable, and it just doesn't quite work the same way as it did. Because whenever you do it that way, you're really taking anybody that wants to have a partner with you, that will sign your partner agreement and say, yeah, I want to do sales, and they're all hyped up about it. You're hyped up, I just signed a new partner, you're ringing the bell, and then they just fall flat. You work with them, you get them signed up, you're onboarding them, you're working with them, and then there's no sales. And I get that a lot from people I'm talking to. Is like, aren't they just supposed to sell? And yeah, I suppose you could say that, but at the end of the day, really, it comes down to that 80-20 rule. I hate to say that, because really, I'm always looking for ways of how do I improve that 80-20 rule, or at least I'm making something from my 80% rule. But the big problem, and even when I'm talking to, we also work with a lot of very large enterprises, and we go into them, and it's like, they'll say, I got 25,000, 30,000 partners, and we start to review and profile their partners, and we're working with them, and 5% of them are just dead. They don't exist, and they're still counting them, or they haven't done anything with them. And so it's very, very interesting that when you look at those channel programs, and you recruit 10,000 people, and you end up with 900 or 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,500, if you're really lucky, 2,000 are really doing something for you. So it's a lot of time, manual time, expensive, inconsistent, and it's really just demoralizing to a lot of the people that are doing it for you.
And I want to add to that we say on there 80% are inactive, but what we're seeing honestly with working directly with customers is that it's more like 90 to 95% of the partners are inactive and not driving revenue. Now, if they're intentionally partners who are non-transactional, that's one thing. But in most cases, the vendors are recruiting partners with the intent that they're being transactional still. And we're seeing that genuinely, it's more like 5 to 10%. It's just that there's no stats or no public quote that we can reference toward that. And people don't necessarily want to admit it, but it does become, it is a lot less active than just, than even 20%. If you're doing 20% active, you're actually doing a lot of good things.
Yeah, and I just one more thing to add there too. And folks, if you have questions, jump in. Feel free to make this a conversation instead of just us talking. If you have questions, happy to take them. Right, we got great material to go through. We'd like to get through it, but same time, it's more about what you need to get out of this as well. And we might learn something too. But and what Dina's saying is, I've seen in sometimes in the SaaS world, if you bring on a referral partner and they've done one deal, then they're active, right? And so you're looking at your activation rates being high. To me, I don't look at a channel that way. I want recurring, and I want them to be continually bringing me deals consistently and be able to predict that revenue, and not have 10,000 people that are on my list and just hope that they might refer something to me. So I just want to clarify that too, because some people say, that's not me, mine are 80% there. And when I dig into it, it's like, okay, they did 1 or 2 deals over the last year and a half, 2 years. So that's not what I really look at when I look at activation. But really, it's about, how do you get down to having that perfect golf swing? How do you look at the channels and find the right channel members, and not just on 1 or 2 points of data as you're looking at your profile and say, hey, all managed service providers are great for me, or all of these digital agencies are good for me, or all of these people are good for me. It typically doesn't work that way. You're still going to hit a lot of hooks, a lot of pulls. You are bringing it in tighter. You are practicing that swing. You are getting down to where it is. But it's like, if I can really understand what their business model is and how they're really turning themselves, and understand what their market is, just the more you understand about that partner foundationally, and being able to predict what they're going to do or how they're talking to you, or even looking at that market. I've seen in a lot of markets, with a lot of vendors we work with, that as they really get it in tight, they start saying all managed service providers, but then they realize that, hey, it's this real group right here that we really want to work at, and out of that particular market.
And the reality, the other analogy is like, when you have the perfect partner, it is like getting a hole in one. It reduces the friction of finding customers, closing deals, onboarding those customers, renewals, because that partner is just perfect. So the less ideal, or the less of a match they are when you let them in, the more you're going to spend your time with all these different hooks and chopping away at the swing. So, my golf game is pretty crappy because I don't take enough lessons and don't educate myself enough on how to have that straight shot. But anyway, so that's kind of the metaphor here.
Yeah, I think too, if you look at a lot of the conversations out there, especially with like the enterprise companies, they're like, and then the way I look at it as well is that if my direct team is working with resellers on a daily basis, and they're working with the same ones and they're managing them, I want them to be at a high level. I want those to continue generating revenue, be doing stuff for me. It might be that all ad agencies can do something with me, but I shouldn't be managing those all myself. I really need to find that set that's really aligned with what I'm doing and how I'm going to market so that it's high revenue on both sides. Then you can go, if you do look at some of those bigger companies, they'll say, I'm going to work with this 5% of my partners. The other ones I'm going to push the distribution over here. I'm going to push them to master agent. I'm going to push them to someone else to do that business for me, because it doesn't pay for me to do it. So you're really looking for those types of relationships you want to do on your own. Dina, you want to jump on this slide here?
Yeah, so because of the pains that we face in a lot of channel partners, a lot of channel executive space, we were saying, how do we find the right partners for the right SaaS vendors, right? That's really where the whole beginning of SaaSMAX started, is as a marketplace to bring together channel partners and vendors. And as more and more vendors came to us, we realized that we didn't have the right partners for the right vendors. And so how is that done in other areas, in other sectors, right? And this is a real easy example to say, in sports, you look at their card, you look at their stats, you quantify them into a scorecard, and you say, do they fit my team? Do I, are they right for the player that's missing right now? Is this the right stats for that player to bring them on my team? And, in online dating, we do it. In product reviews, we do it. Also in human resources, talent management, we do it. But there hadn't been a way to score partners and partner companies in the past. And so that's actually what became the journey that I went on as my night job, was figuring out, how do we pursue and find all the business attributes that allow us to understand which partners are the right partners to recruit, right? And then turn that into a database and a searchable database, and hence we developed the Partner Optimizer discovery platform. Now, whether or not you ever use the Partner Optimizer discovery platform, what we did at the start was identify the business attributes that are important to building an ideal partner persona. And that's what we wanted to talk about with you guys today, and share that with you, because as one channel exec to another channel exec, these are core fundamental tenets that you can now use to build that ideal partner profile, and then go on that and align everyone on in your channel team, your stakeholders, your distributors, your partners, everyone, knowing that who your ideal partner looks like from a business attribute standpoint. And then you go after those and you get those. You message to your partners around who they are as a more concise group versus a spray and pray message to anyone and everyone. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. And so, Clint, let's turn to the next slide. Does anyone have any questions or pains, or want to share a little bit about partner discovery challenges you've faced so far in building your partner programs?
I have a question. Right now, you're talking mostly about referral partnerships. Is that, just to be clear? Or you're talking both referral and
we're talking about any type of partner. So reseller partners, value-added resellers, integrators, they could be vendor to vendor. So hence sometimes referral. It really, the ecosystem, and we have a slide from Jay McBain's Forrester thing at the end of this to talk about how many different types of profiles you need, right? But whatever you think is the ideal partner for your product or solution is what we're talking about here. Because every one of those needs its own ideal partner profile for you to then be consciously aware of who you're going to recruit.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this is applicable, of course, even if you're a medical product, right? This is applicable. So if you're a soft drink, right, you still need to know what is your ideal partner that's going to take you to market.
Yeah,
I have a lot of questions.
Strengths. Go ahead.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions because you guys experienced the license channel and then the subscription channel later, like where the differences are, but I'm interested in hearing where you're going and then talking about that later as well.
Yeah, I think, this also works for the hardware channels, and a lot of the experience that we come from is software and also hardware and services, and at least that's where my background comes from. It's infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, backup, disaster recovery is also my background in software for that. And building channels in all of those areas, and especially in the IT services area. And we've branched into MarTech, we've branched into FinTech and other areas where we track different partners and profile them, basically building DNA profiles on them. So, and then within each one of those ecosystems, you can still have different people doing different things. You may have website design companies or building firms that are doing services, or you have someone else selling your software. So you have a referral program over here, and you may bring it out and give it to a web developer. That's a partner like an SI for you in that particular place. Like in the Cisco world, you have SIs where they're doing their systems integration work, and they may even recommend the hardware, or a different partner is actually a VAR is selling the hardware, and then you have your partner, which in that world of a systems integrator, that then goes in and installs it and sets it up and integrates all the software. So it can be very complex in how your ecosystem works, whether it's SaaS software or a hardware company.
I have a question. So I'm building. I'm in the build, and in your pain slide, I recognize that pain. So I'm identifying types of partners, types of approaches, and manually going out and creating meetings and going after these folks. And a lot of it will deliver learnings, and some of it will deliver discussions. So when it comes to going to a broad component, those integrators that might want to bring this solution, other technologies where maybe there's a tertiary integration opportunity of referral or co-sell or et cetera. So this is very manual. Are you going to talk about kind of how to streamline that process so that you can kind of hit more types of categories or business types in a relevant way? Because it's very manual. I'll do my research, find the angle, and then I'll identify 10 companies, and I'll do my outreach, 3, 4, 5 emails, get a couple calls, and go from there.
Sure. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be doing next, is really on this form, is like, if we look at the form, and let me go to here first. So what you're talking about is this, and you're looking at a profile, right? So you're talking that this is how we as a company break down what a partner profile would look like, and what's included within that profile. One is the partner persona, which is made up of their company types and how they go to market, how they sell, how they range themselves, the types of products, and the revenue that they're having in employee ranges and stuff, and what makes up that base animal, if you will. And then you can layer in all your spots and stripes and colorings through the different tech stack insights that they're using, and how do the tech stacks and the ecosystems that they're involved with, how they relate to you. Are they competitors? Are they adjacents? Are they just friendlies? And then your customer focused insights. What are those markets that you're really doing well in and that you want to continue there? Or there are markets that you want to get into that you don't have a lot of expertise in, that you want to bring a partner into? And then what are their qualifications? What are their programs and vendors are they working with? So it sounds to me, Jeff, what you're doing, you're saying, okay, let me build a little of this and go after a couple partners here. Then
yeah, I have multiple answers for each of these.
Yes.
To test out and identify opportunities, since I can't just go back to existing, since it's a new build,
Right.
to look at that. And so, it's I can't give one profile.
Right,
I'll
so
tell you what,
Jeff-
Jeff, like it's one of those things, like the better you nail this down, the less time you're spending on multiple, right? So it's like, I think there's a part of that is a partner recruitment problem as well, but the better you know the personas and the better you have that profile kind of nailed down to that ideal partner, the less time you're, like the more you're dropping off the tree, right? Like you're just going off the really good stuff, right?
Yeah, so. Yeah, and I have kind of a profile for the types, the personas, the types of organizations. The key then is to find out, of those multiple personas that I know are relevant, where is there going to be, I guess on their side, need, capacity, and interest. Even though I know what those personas are and have those angles, these are typically people not involved for the most part with our solution, but it is very applicable to what they do. Gotcha. So it's not like plugging. I can tell you, well, these are all the partners that currently resell or refer our category. Our category doesn't. It's mainly, so it's a matter of going out for those categories and finding that fit. And a lot of that is kind of pitching opportunity. And then those were like, yes, I hear that challenge. Let's talk. Right. But it takes a manual effort.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dina.
Of course, that definitely is required up front. because
Yeah.
you have to think these things through. You even need your stakeholders in your company to agree with you and make sure that you're on the right track. But as you're filling out the first form, I recommend start with one profile, okay? And let's get you
Okay.
one profile done. Do it really well. Don't push the other ones out, because they may morph from this one, or they may be something you could duplicate and then add to or edit, but do a separate one for them later. But focus on one, and also put yourself in the shoes of being the partner, okay? So we know what your product does already, right? But now, since you're bringing something new to them, think about how they're already operating, what they're already doing, who they're selling to. And as we go through the questionnaire, don't think in a very product centric standpoint from what your product is, but think about it from what they're doing. Try to,
Of course, of course. It's got to be how it adds value to their business, how it complements their business. Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah, and I have a
we
campaign
forget
going
that.
on right. Yeah, I have a campaign I'm doing right now. It's getting a lot of a lot of response, but it's about identifying companies that work with a particular platform that we're integrated with. And so there's a high relevancy in how you can get their attention on that. So I'm
Exactly.
going to have
Hence
that
the
one in mind.
adjacent. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. The adjacent is a strong one for me. That's getting a lot of it, a lot of
Like,
I guess, you know, a lot of motion because there's interest there now, which is
Yeah,
going through
and
that
what's
and connecting.
interesting, Jeff, a lot of times people think that their first approach is to go after their competitors' partners, right? And it's not necessarily, because it's going to be more harmonious if you focus on adjacents, right? Your conversation with them is going to be way stronger if you're coming at them and saying, hey, you already have this. Ours is going to complement your stack because of this. So
Totally.
yeah.
I'm
Okay.
smiling because my first effort was to start competitor just to get a sense, and very quickly, and I didn't think it was going to be fruitful. Got a lot of meetings on it, but it really told me a lot about my competitor's partner strategy, and that informed me to see where I want to go. So it was more research. What are they doing and why? And you hear back from those people very quick when you reach out to those people, when you mention you're a competitor.
Yeah, and I think too, and we'll move on here, but I think too is that I see a lot of profile changes as you're looking at different types of resellers, but what is it that you want from each type of reseller and how they want to take it to market? Again, I always want them to refer me business and my team will close it up and then we'll pay them commission, or I want them to do the full sale. So now what does that look like from a profile? I want them to sell the product and do it too, right? So that's where you get into a lot of the profile changes, as you're looking at different segments and different ways to go through the channel. I think a lot of times you want to hit on one and then stick with that to build that a little bit and get it going, and then turn it over to someone to run it, and then you go out and you find the next one.
Yep. So. Cool. Thank you. That was very helpful, and it kind of helps me get a pace on the momentum I have right now and to build that out. That's good. Thank you.
Right. And one thing to just consider is, once you have this built, right, you have, like Clint was saying, a DNA profile that it's very term based. Okay, we're not asking you to be fluffy and write sentences and paragraphs. Think of specific terms or dictionary terms or queries that you would search on Google or wherever, but just think in very small morsels: networking communication, unified communication, backup disaster recovery. But just go term by term, entering in sort of a stream of consciousness for now, and then you'll beef it up later after you've had a chance to think about it.
And this is a form here that we use with all our customers that we're onboarding and are looking to work with us. So this is a worksheet that you can have. You can share it internally. It's, like Dina says, it's not tied to us. So you can work with your team on this. You can work with your stakeholders on it. If you prefer, at some point, if you'd like to send this to us, you can, and we can put it in, and we can work with you on it. But I'm going to jump past the foundational questions here, but this is where you can just put in, these are more sentence type things where you can describe your product and solution on there, so you get you have some of that background. What I'm going to jump into is I'm going to jump right down to the partner persona. So this is broken down into the buckets that I showed you earlier on what that makes up a profile. So it's a partner persona, the different vendors and the competing as the adjacents and such. So in a partner persona, one of the first things to look at is the partner company type. And here, like Dina said, we don't need phrases. You don't need full sentences. You want to describe them like, are they a systems integrator? Are they a value-added reseller or a VAR? Are they digital agencies, CRM agencies, search engine optimization consultants? And you want to really look at those because, like in my world, like a managed service provider, for me, an MSP, someone that has the business model of an MSP, just as an example, that's an account management, an IT company that is the average one's 8 to 10 employees. They have 30 clients with about 30 employees, with about 30 PCs and 1.5 servers, 2 servers, and they're doing 1.5 to 2.2 million dollars in revenue. And they're account management companies. They don't do a lot of sales. So that tells me a lot about who they are, what they are, how they're going to arrange their systems. And so it's the same thing here. When I look at a systems integrator or a VAR, it tells me a lot about what their sales capacity is going to be. It tells me if they're good at sales, if they're not good at sales. It tells me a lot about them. So think about how you want to describe the company insofar as how do they go to market, how do they make their money, and what is that going to do to arrange them. And again, ask questions as we go through this. So these are just some samples that I put in. What I did is I ranked these things myself, and we rank them here in a 1 to 5 and how important they are, 5 being the highest. So I was putting some parentheses in here, and I said I'll stop that for now as I went down through the rest of it. But you can rank these too. So you can look at them as you rank them saying, hey, look, they have to be a systems integrator. It'd also be nice if they did these things and so on and so forth. So you want to think about that too, because a lot of companies don't have just one business model. They'll be doing some other things out there. So
and keep in mind, yeah, let me just add, like for you, you might say the word referral partner, but the company doesn't necessarily think of themselves as a referral partner, right? They're thinking of themselves as an expert in this, or a digital commerce agency, or a MarTech consultant, or whatever it may be. So what you call them is one thing, but how do they, what do they think about themselves?
Yeah, that's really important. What Dina just said is because if you look at your channel program and you want a referral partner, in many cases, to the person you're trying to get to be your referral partner, they view that as, okay, so I refer you something, you close it up, and you pay me a commission. So I don't have to touch it. I don't have to do sales. Where if they're a reseller, you're wanting them to take up a bigger portion of that reselling and a bigger portion of the marketing aspect, and they're going to expect to be paid differently. So you have to really look at, that's part of what your channel program and the buckets that you're putting in, how you make revenue with them. So that's a good point that she brought up. Next would be the solutions and services. So what are the solutions and services they're selling? And just think about, are they in maybe the world I'm in today? I want people that are doing customer relationship management or CRM. They're doing some marketing, they're doing some marketing automation, and they're looking at different analytics. They're in the Salesforce automation area as well, doing lead generation, search engine optimization. Maybe they're doing customer experience or customer success, whatever it is that the areas that they're working in, what they're focusing on, will tell you, again, a lot about what they're focused on, how that relates to what you're needing them to do, and do they have bench strength, and do they have that capability to provide those types of services where you'll fit right in with them.
Exactly. And again, that comes down to the adjacent solutions to what you do, because if you are a new category, they may not do something in your category already. So what else are they doing that would make them a great partner?
And in product types or products, the different products, this is not the name of a product of a vendor, but it's more of what a product would be like, selling healthcare products, or it may be very similar to what you have in solutions and services, but think of it as, and the way we think about it is, a solution and service is something that they're doing. It's not necessarily the product itself. So like you might have IaaS or infrastructure as a service. That's more of a product type than it is necessarily a solution and service from our point of view today in looking at this. A cloud service provider, they're providing cloud services, so they might be in 2. They could also be in 3 because they're also providing infrastructure as part of that. So you just want to look at where you put this, or a platform is more of a product than it is, or a physical server, or even a virtual server could be considered a product. So if you're just doing virtual servers, that's not a solution and service actually, but it's a product. So just kind of look at how you want to fill those out and work with them. Competing.
Any questions on that bucket before we move to the next bucket? Okay, great.
So competing adjacent insights. So really, we talked about this some earlier with Jeff on those great questions. So it's all about the vendors and how they relate to you and your products you're taking to market. So here are some of my competitors, and this could be HubSpot, Salesforce, Cooper CRM, or Copper. So you're really looking at, I want to put my vendors in here, and I want to understand what each company, as I look at each partner, I need to know that, because if I'm going to call them, how do I relate to that competition? What are the, and I wouldn't necessarily look at it from the perspective, how am I better? But I would look at it in this case of what are the pain points that this reseller is facing with their clients that I can help them solve, is how I would look at that. Is not so much going right up against their product, but as how do I ease and help solve or provide new solutions for them that would offset what this vendor is doing. Same with the competing products. So you get more into a specific product from a vendor. So you might want to know those. Adjacent vendors, we talked about those earlier. These are friendly vendors that you enhance or they enhance you, or you build have integrations into them. They're products that you might sell your product and something comes along with it, or you go along with another sale. So you're showing these partners that are selling a particular product, and Jeff, you said it rightly, is that you can sell my product alongside it. You're going to enhance it. You can get more client share of wallet out of what we're doing together from your particular client. So you're giving them more solutions and services that they can provide on top of what you're doing, or help them just increase that client share of wallet. Then just the straight vendors, like question 5 and 6. This is more about the ecosystems they play in. So are they in the Microsoft ecosystem? Are they in the AWS ecosystem, or Azure or Google? What are those different larger ecosystems that they may be playing in or be part of that also helps them? Like if your product, you have Amazon, you don't want to move out of Amazon, you don't want to put it in a different cloud, or if they're installing it, there's just a lot of different reasons why you would want them to be in a different ecosystem. Any questions about the vendors and the products? And Dina, you have any?
No, just that if you're saying, I don't necessarily know all these answers, because sometimes we don't, that, toward the end of this, but really during this, if you have best partners already, or ones that you think should be your best partners, the best way to start to figure this out is by going to their websites and looking specifically dig deep into their websites and check it out. And yeah, this is a great example, especially in the MarTech world, right? So you can go to Evenbound's website and you're going to see who they're targeting. You can see it's pretty structured around manufacturing and real estate and commercial, and you can see how we help them is related to website design and inbound and outbound marketing, which are 2 areas of MarTech, but not all areas of MarTech. So what they choose to talk about and focus on and specialize in helps you understand what you may want to include in your ideal partner profile, assuming they were a good partner of yours. And if you scroll down, Clint, I think we were looking at this one site specifically.
You can also just pick up digital marketing right here too. So they're also talking about digital marketing and providing that. It's not necessarily on their website as digital marketing insofar as how we help our clients, but it's also here. And as Dina said, you can continue to peruse down and pick out other types of products that they work with, like here they're a clutch partner.
And what happens is, as you have more and more active partners, right, and you can start to examine multiple partners in one, together, and you roll up the terms that they have most in common. That's really fundamentally what we built into Partner Optimizer. Of course, it's way more sophisticated and uses machine learning and AI and all sorts of things like that. But we basically look for what are those terms that are talked about the most and the most frequently, right? So what are we seeing most frequently within a website? and you're going to see if HubSpot is mentioned 580 times, which you wouldn't want to count, but you can kind of visually do a check on it. And 4 of your other best partners are also HubSpot Platinum partners. It starts to create a thesis, right, that you could then hone in on. And it could be that that your partners are more focused on all being in healthcare or all being in, manufacturing or whatever it may be. And so the manual work you start to do becomes more directed and pinpointed toward what are those best partners have in common, and then prove out that those best partners, if they are already your best partners, and great, you look for lookalikes. If you don't yet, you still pick a sector of them, a group of them, and see how you do with those if you really believe that they have those attributes that match up with yours.
Yeah, so exactly. So you can go through and you can pull these, you can learn from them, and you learn from each one as you keep looking at different websites. You'll start to see it. And as Dina said, there are other tools out there that you can use, but like with ours, we can take 500 to 1,000 partners and in minutes or a day, basically, you have all this done, and it's all right there, laid out there in front of you, so you can see all these different correlations. And with the AI that's out there today, then those correlations can build you the profile. You don't necessarily have to build that on your own. If you had 100 partners you looked at, then you can build a profile out of that by looking and see what they all have in common, and do that very rapidly instead of building that by hand. So, but that's really, as the things that you're doing by hand is what we do, and we make it much faster. And just to finish out the customer focus insights on the form, you can fill this out too. Again,
this is really important. Yeah.
The markets that you're into.
Well, this is if your marketing team isn't sharing with you already what the ideal customer profile is, make sure you get it from them. And if they don't have it, make sure they create it, right? Because you want your partners to have the same ideal customer profile as you do. And so these are things that ideally you shouldn't be figuring this work out yourself. Even more so, the stakeholders should be participating in it. So, the vertical markets, right? They may say, or you may think this appeals to any vertical, but there's probably a few that are going to roll up to the top and be the most important right now, or the ones that are getting the most traction.
Well, you're going to find too a lot of solution providers and resellers out there. They do have vertical focuses themselves. They have, whether they wanted to or not. In many cases, they've gotten sales through just word of mouth or because of referrals, and they get stuck in a vertical and don't necessarily know it, but they're still speaking it. Or they'll, if you're looking at the different, like if they have HIPAA certification, it's not cheap for them to get or keep HIPAA certification or have those people on staff that can do those and have those auditors. So that gives you a really good idea of who they are. So even though your product may fit the entire world, it's not going to fit every reseller, and it may fit everyone, but you're going to talk to them a little bit differently in the markets that they really know and that they service and that they work with. They're not gonna jump out at everything and go at everything. So and then that's also the additional qualifications. Again, I mentioned just a little bit earlier, but like the certifications they have, or are they working within the different? Are they working within the GDR or GDPR framework? Are they working in the HIPAA framework? Are they working in NIST? Are they working in all the different? They have a SOC 2 compliance if needed. All these different capabilities and compliance statuses that they keep, different programs that they're involved in, like a Microsoft Gold partner. And when you hear that, at least when I hear that, I'm looking at a company that does a lot of dynamics. They're working with the BI tools. They're doing a lot of CRM integrations. They're probably doing a little bit of software development as well. They're not necessarily selling a ton of. They'll still sell some of the Office. They'll still sell some of the email and Exchange and those things, but they're really focused on those other tools, and that's what they do. So that tells you. But if you look at a Microsoft small business partner, that's something completely different in what they do most on a daily basis. So very interesting that what you can take out of those partner programs that they're involved in. And then, what we ask for if you're working with us is to provide 5 to 10 to 25 of your best performing partners or partners you think are best. And we build out an actual what we call data-driven profile from them. And we're able to profile those If you're here today and you want to look at something like that, just, let us know, send us the form with those on there. But then we build out a data-driven profile, which works really well because it's looking at
Right.
your
Regardless of us, think about who are those very best ones from the standpoint of who do you want more like, right? Because those are the 5 or 10 that you should go to their websites yourself and do that. Spend an hour on these websites. You're going to learn so much more than you ever thought you did about your partners, because you're going to be looking at how they're talking to the world about what they do. And that's almost more critical at the beginning. It's almost like we should change our worksheet at the start to put these in at the top, because then everything you're doing could be referencing those partners and their URLs, so that you can pull in from them and you can add some critical thinking to, well, they do these things. I never thought that they also did this. We really should consider that. And it's an epiphany and a learning experience. And honestly, if you're the channel chief yourself, or if you're an island as a partner, someone who's being asked to build out your partner program from scratch, this is research worth your doing directly. We have lots of people that we can throw on it, interns and others, but by doing this yourself, you become way more intelligent and strategic. And again, if you picture playing golf, you're going to tee off in the right direction much faster.
And this last piece, the prioritization, this number 5 right here, this is very important, because now you get to go back and look at everything that you put on the form. And it's like, what are the most important top 5 things or 3 things or 10 things out of everything that you've listed there? And those start to become the things that your must-haves. Like, all of them have to have this. It doesn't have to be the most important piece, but they all share. Like Dina's saying, they all happen to be search engine optimization companies. Wow, didn't know that. It's not important to me, so it's not a big, but it's a must-have for me because all my best partners are doing that. So I want to find more of them. So it doesn't have to be ranked as a 5 as it's the most important, but it has to be a must-have. It has to be something that they contain. So it's just very interesting as you go through this process. But that's really
this would also be super kind of interesting to do for just kind of recruitment, partner marketing, just knowing what to be talking about and how to be able to kind of structure materials that you're passing on to them and helping them kind of sell. I guess it seems to me like it's really worthwhile doing, just, obviously for the partner profile build, but also just knowing what these guys are really interested in and what they want to talk about. And the more of those words and themes you use, the closer you get to them, right?
Yeah, that's right, Evan. What we see in a lot of marketers is they'll do the old thing. They're kind of doing the way they used to do an email, where you got 25,000 contacts, you start blasting them. Now you get 25,000 companies and you start reaching out to them. And then as soon as someone responds, you start to target them, and then you target them, and you target them, and you target them. And you're kind of trying to learn the things that you've already got on your sheet here. So now you're not starting off here, not knowing anything about this person. Now you're starting way down here saying, I know that you are doing these things at this company and these things like that. You're in this vertical and you're in that vertical and you're selling this product and that product. So now when I start to target that, I've already hyper targeted it. I'm not starting at a target. I'm starting at a very hyper targeted company that I can really be unique with when I reach out to them.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, we had a call a week ago with the channel chief of like a company that has 5,000 partners, and didn't know if they really understood the process of what we do. But then we now have a meeting with them tomorrow where they've invited product marketing, field marketing, demand gen marketing, channel sales, and direct sales. Because once you identify all this data about these partners, it really does become the start of the roadmap that everyone should get on the same page. So we've seen some of our channel people, end up feeling like heroes in their organization because they cause a shift that puts everything in alignment. So that really comes to the now what, which Evan started talking about, because now that you know what your ideal partner profile is, firstly, you can iterate on it and continue to improve it. And it is going to change dynamically. Like we noticed over the past year from our data that a lot of managed service providers are now more so emphasizing that they're cloud computing consultants, right? Or cloud consultants. And so tracking and paying attention to those things is going to be important, because then you know where they're starting to focus their own improvements in education and target market. So then spend more time on your partner's best sites as you're refining and iterating. Pull in the stakeholders, especially your marketing team, to find out what they think the ideal customer profile is, so that you're not doing this alone. And then revisit this quarterly, we think, even if it's just to keep everyone fresh and remembering to stay on, to stay on track, or to consider what tweaks to make. And then in terms of partner discovery and recruitment, now that you have this, the first things you can do are to craft a targeted pitch, a better pitch, because now instead of talking to everyone, right, you can now talk more specifically to the ones who matter to you, and who cares about the rest of them, right? It's great to get a partner that may have a single deal for you, but you don't really want those if you can focus in on the partners that can get a lot of deals for you and become a very active, extended piece of your team. So craft your pitch more targeted, build your demo to speak to those right ones, build your content strategy the same way. Again, retrain your channel sales team to make sure that they know who they should be talking to, and what they should be talking about with them. Help them build scripts that are more targeted. It'll make them feel better and more equipped to have conversations with these partners as well, instead of calling and just trying to figure out something to connect on, like the football game. It's like, I know that you already specialize in this, and that's why you're going to love what I have to say. And it can create alignment from the beginning.
This is the magic question that everyone has, because it's the most anxious part of the whole thing. Is the first message. It's like, do you have any recommendations of what a good pitch sounds like? Because a lot of these partners get tons of vendors emailing them all day long.
Well, I don't want to ruin it, but I know that Evan is planning a mastermind with one of our partners, who is startup hype man, Rajiv, right? Nathan. And so he did a webinar with us, and we bring him into our customers and say, now that you know this, let's build your ideal pitch. And we have a webinar coming up in a few weeks, which is about now build your ideal demo, right? And I think he's going to bring that to Cloud Software Association directly, but that's the kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we're titling it "Craft a Pitch Doesn't Suck." In a
Yes.
kind of funny way.
Mm-hmm. You're ruining my secret trick, is I tee up the future ones by asking questions as if.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely an art to it. But honestly, the pitch is only going to be as good as what you put into it. And having this type of stuff already nailed down, the pitch part is just, it's just work. You gotta kind of craft it. But this is all the ingredients, right? You have the recipe.
That's the point,
I'm not gonna let you off the hook, guys. I do want to answer because it's interesting. But here's another way of asking it. So Alex Glenn, we all know Alex. So his argument is you can't pitch agencies at all, ever. You have to do an indirect pitch, like offer them a podcast or something indirect, and then work on the relationship sale in. I don't know if that's entirely true, because obviously that's not how the channel used to be. We seem to do fine beforehand. What would you say is, what would you give as tips to someone who's using a partner optimizer to get a pitch out the door the first 30 days that might work a little bit and build from there?
When they're working with partner optimizer, we're finding, we like to say, like the Glengarry partner matches. So if you're going to invest in finding the Glengarry partner matches, you want to nurture those like gold, right? Maybe send them something special in a FedEx, right? Invite them to a lunch where you've paid for the lunch. Because you already know that they're the right ones, you don't just want to like mildly touch on them. Yeah, you want to do the marketing touch points as well, but you can make a bigger impact and stand out and stay on them, like white on rice, as my dad likes to say. But even if you have one contact in them and it seems like the wrong contact and that contact shut you down, you want your salespeople to be tenacious and really get in there and have a chance to pitch them before they actually say no.
I think looking at ad agencies that are marketing agencies, and that's what you're specifically were asking about.
That was Alex's world that he lives in. So this is like don't pitch, offer a podcast, but that's not possible for everybody.
No. Yeah.
But I think you reach out to them though. But that market is very, in my opinion, is very much like the managed service provider market in the IT world. is that the managed service provider is your client. And in many cases, I think that the digital agency or the ad agency is your client. They're using the content type of softwares to manage their DAM products, to manage their clients. They're using different products that they use on behalf of their clients. So I think in talking, in some cases, reaching out to them about, how are you doing this, or what are you using, or my product is Jeff was saying earlier, if you look at some of those products in that marketing area that a lot of the particular agencies that you want to go after are using, and you're tightening up some of that or providing different things around it that they can do to provide a better service to their client, talk about how you can help them provide that better service. So you're not reaching out to them saying, resell my stuff per se. You're reaching out to them in a better way of saying, here's how I can help you strengthen your services and products to your clients, or to help you be more effective and more productive to save time and money on your own, which goes back to their bottom line. And that's when you
Yeah,
get good.
if I can offer something, I think you have, it's sales. You have to know what is their pain, right? What do they solve for? What's the opportunity? Why should I listen to this solution? Is it growing? Is it an $8 billion business? You got to show there's money there. The second thing is you have to know something about the challenges their customers have. So you're posing, I can help you leverage X, Y, and Z for your customers. With that, does that add value? And it's got to be really simple. And I build my outreach. I know, because of a sales background, you're going to have to reach out to them at least 3 times. And I can tell you that I typically hear back after my 3rd email, and it starts with, sorry, I haven't followed up with you yet. And so you have to be very strategic about what that first email is, what the second one is, what the third one is. And it can't be the salesy stuff that your 22-year-old SDRs put out there. It can't be cute. It can't be sassy, playing words there, but it needs to be very relevant, short, and speak to them. And if you're not hearing back from them, then you're not speaking to them, or you got the wrong people. But for the most part, once I see something hit and it works, I know that I'm going to have other ones follow up with the same message, or I'll see what message it was and I'll adjust it. But you got to go snippets. You got to go little pieces. You can't bombard them. Hey, I want you to be a partner. What do you think about talking? It's got to be what's happening in their business, what's happening in the industry, and finding the right chiseled words that they'll read an email going, yeah, I should be thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like one of the best things you can do really is find out who they're already working with, and pitch them on, hey, we either have a common client or somebody that you can add value to, and say, hey, here's how we could have done that a little bit better. Do you want to have a chat? It doesn't have to be the quote unquote pitch like that we expect to see, like where it's like a 3 sentences and like, here's why you should hire me. It's more or less, it's almost like a subject line in an email. It's like, why do you want to hear more? That to me is a great pitch. And to Alex's point on inviting them kind of indirectly to a podcast or a webinar or something like that, that's just not realistic, right? Like you can't, you have 200, 300 agencies or whoever you're working with. Like it's absolutely, you're probably going to get more out of it, but it's just, those are not the types of resources that these SaaS companies have, right, in a partner department. So I think there's a middle ground there, and it's definitely going to be dependent on like ROI of resources you have and how much you want to put into it. But again, this is like the foundational stuff that you need to have 100% no matter what.
Well, I think as well, one thing to mention, especially if they're transactional types of partners, if you have potential leads for them or a customer that you can invite them to trail, and you bring them that customer and it's basically something that's been closed, but you offer to pay them the commission or an incentive for their time while they learn, that kind of thing shows that you're serious, and you can choose to do that with those partners that you think are the best ones, and have them realize that you have potential leads that you can generate for them and drive to them to make them successful with it. But it's always better when you have a real customer and a real case study where they're vested in the success of that case and that product and that transaction, to get them excited and going, because then they get to hear what the customer is already excited about it, or how you pitch to them, how you close them, and then how easy it is to get going. So if you have the kind of product that allows you to do that, definitely strongly encourage you to do that, because right now so many vendors are like, what can I get from the partner? But the partners are typically saying, well, how's the vendor going to help me grow? And so there's this clash of understanding where the partner thinks the vendor should really help them and get started. So be more innovative that way, and find a way to help that partner drive sales and get them started with at least a first deal.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think it's, we talked about this just before we started the webinar here, but, this is not something that you do once and you forget it, right? It's, at least once a year, you need to check in and be like, is this, as your product is evolving, as your company is evolving, as your marketing is evolving, is the ideal partner profile still the same one it was last year, or has it changed, or has the priority of reseller versus affiliate versus distributor, has that priority changed? That one, chances are it will change, if not before the year's out, definitely as the company evolves. So it's kind of keep in mind that, just because you have one, you should probably redo it every so often.
Right. And again, let the research tell you what you don't know. You're going to start with a hypothesis, like what you probably put in the worksheet today. But now if you spend the time and do the research, you're going to learn a lot more. So yeah, if you have more questions, thanks, Jeff. I know you got to drop, but great seeing you, meeting you.
Bye-bye.
And everyone
Thank
else.
you. It was great.
Send us questions. If you want us to do a profile or two of your partners, we can run it through our engine and show you some data-driven information on what that partner looks like, or 3 or 4 of them. We'd be happy to do that and share that with you. No strings attached, just, because now that you've gone through this, you'll probably appreciate seeing all that kind of data. But happy to answer any questions or talk to you further, and good luck with growing your channels.
Yeah, Dina and Clinton are part of the Slack community. So if you want to message them and go from there, you're more than welcome to. In fact, any questions whatsoever, we're happy to kind of take this into Slack and get those answered. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Dina and Clinton, thanks a lot for hosting this thing. I think it was excellent, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, we'll see you
again,
at future events. Yep.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos, John. Bye-bye.